Hey y'all, I've had a surprising number of people that have asked for an update on the old house. I just kind of threw some videos up back in the winter of us working on the roof a little bit, and because I didn't really have anything else to do, and I was pretty surprised that there was actually some people that were interested to know what the progress was. And we haven't really, well, we have and we haven't. Since that last video, it doesn't seem like we've made much progress. But we've also been raising grain, raising vegetables, having a baby. I didn't, but my wife did. And everything that goes along with all that stuff. So we've been a little bit busy, but we've reached a major milestone for me. I'm not really afraid of heights per se, but I do not like being on a steep roof, and this roof is a 7 pitch, which means for every 12 inches that it goes that way, it goes up 7 inches. And if you're a roofer watching this, you probably think that's silly and that's nothing. Walk around on that all day, but that's pretty steep for me. So yeah, I wasn't real crazy about putting the roof on the second story. Porches don't bother me. The porches are not as steep either, for whatever reason. It's just the way they did it 160 years ago. But today, you see we've got the porch torn off, and it's actually, the boards are in remarkably good shape. The reason for that, in my opinion, is this roof right here was the only one that had a standing seam roof on it. And they say standing seam is supposed to be a 100-year roof. Well, it had some holes rusted in it here and there, but I mean, you can see there's a few little places like this where it was obviously a hole rusted through. But overall, I mean, when we tore the back porch off, we started taking, it had an aluminum roof on it, which was garbage. That was not really a good idea from the start. But when we tore it off, man, we just kept tearing boards off. We ended up replacing about 3/4 of the wood on top of that, plus a couple of rafters. So I was pleasantly surprised when we started taking this one off to find the wood in such good shape. We've had to go underneath and reinforce some rafters. It had, around the bottom, it had like 2-inch overhang, and the metal was like wrapped around the wood. So we popped lines, got it nice and straight, and sawed all the excess wood off. And right now, what I've just done was the original window stools set basically on top of the metal. And I got kind of lucky on these windows here on the front. As you can see, they need caulk, but I was able to go inside the original window box and just take the sashes out of the window casing and frame out and set these windows right inside of those original window casings. Caulk it up and put it in there, and then put these trim pieces around. Well, I'm kind of glad I did that, because I had a trim piece above the window stool and it looked okay, but the window stool sitting on top of the metal is not going to work for flashing it, not to do a good job and do it like it's supposed to be. So what I'm doing right now, I'm trying to get this roof on before it gets much hotter. It's supposed to be 90 degrees today. What I'm doing right now is I've got a straight edge and made a line across so that I can saw the extra window casing off, and I'm going to take the original window stool, because that's going to be heart pine, far better than anything that I could buy or saw on my sawmill. I'm going to take it, and it's actually still in really good shape, but the grain is looking a little ragged in the wood. So I'm going to take it to the table saw, and I'm going to rip like a 1/4 inch off of it on 3 sides. I'm going to cut it down to size. All I need is a short piece now with these new windows, and I'm going to screw it right back on here, and after I flash it, of course. But this is going to work out perfectly, because we'll be able to get our flashing on and then put our window stools back on, put our bottom courses of siding on. I was able to get the bottom courses of siding off without tearing them up too bad. I'm going to run them through the table saw, straighten them up, put them back on. So I'm waiting on Malachi and Eden to get, or while I'm waiting on Malachi and Eden to get here, I'm just trying to get this ready, and I'm going to start putting the drip edge on. And I've got one little board I'm going to replace right here that's a little bit of rotten, and we're ready to start putting on metal. This is what I was talking about. Got her pruned down and shaped up and cut the rough edges off, and she's ready. Check out the grain on this stuff. That's what makes heart pine so priceless. You would have a really hard time finding pine with grain like that these days. Heart pine, if you're not familiar, typically, as far as I know, it's always longleaf pine, and it's old growth longleaf pine. So pine trees that were from a patch of woods that had never been cut before. So they grow very, very slowly, and the grain is extremely tight, very resistant to rot and insect damage, very hard, and just really good quality wood. But I took all of these and got them trimmed down. I numbered them so I know which window they go back on, and I have got, this timing's gonna be perfect. The sun's gonna be just baking me on this roof by the time I get ready to start putting metal. But I've got to go over, and I've got a few boards like this one where 160 years of hot cold has bowed them up and got them nails pulled up a little bit. Eden went through and drove all the nails down, but some of them are not really wanting to hold. So I'm going to go over and run some screws in some places, and I've got to put our drip edge on. I'll be ready to start putting metal on. This is what our drip edge looks like. There's a mom and pop metal place that I like to do business. It's not too far from here, called Mid-State Metals. What I've always been told is they use 100% American metal, and I like that. And also it's a small business, and I like doing business with small businesses. But the way this stuff comes, when I order it from them, it is like 1.5 by 2 inches. It's just a straight 90-degree profile, and I prefer my drip edge to have a drip edge. So, and also I like for it to fit the profile of the roof better. So what I do is I take it and I bend this little 3/8 flange up at 45 degrees, and then the part that I'm going to put along the bottom of the roof, along the drip edge, I flatten out partially so it fits the profile of the roof. And then what's going to run up the side, I leave at 90 degrees, but I still put that little 3/8 kink out, and I'll show you how this stuff goes on. Same holds true with all types of trim or flashing. It's just like putting shingles on. you want to start at the bottom and work your way to the top. So I don't know if you can see it from here or not. Kind of limited on places to put my camera when I'm working down there, hanging off that corner of the roof. So I've got my bottom piece on down there, and now I'm trimming my piece that runs up the rake to fit that corner profile nice and neat. So you want to put your bottom piece on first, and then put your piece that runs up the rake on, so that I don't have a free hand, so that it's overlapping. So if any water blows under the side, it's going to run down here and off of this instead of running underneath of your drip edge. See how that corner worked out nice and neat. Getting started is always the hardest part. Getting the string pulled. I got all the trim on, got our string pulled from one end to the other, and I got my gap set just the way I want it running up the rake. Got some wasp mad, and we had to take a little detour. We had ran out of expansion foam, and I didn't realize that what I've been using is this foam that's on a roll. It comes on a roll. It's an 1/8 of an inch thick. When you roll it out, it gets 1 inch thick, and you put it down on top of your drip edge at the bottom, and it expands to fill up the grooves in the metal so that wasps can't fly up in there and whatnot. But since we ran out and the metal place that I like to shop at was closed today, we went to Lowe's and got some of this stuff that goes underneath it. And it's a little bit aggravating because you got to get it spaced just right. If you stretch it at all, then it don't fit the profile of the metal. But anyway, we are in process. This will go pretty quick. Since it's not so steep as the top was, I'm going to go back and screw it after we get it on. So what we're doing now is you put your sheet on, and you get the bottom perfectly straight with the line, no matter where the top's at, and you screw the bottom down all the way. You twist the top back to where it lines up with the rib, which shouldn't be much. I mean, we're talking 1/4 of an inch here and 1/4 of an inch there. And then what I like to do is I come through and I mark my sheets, and we measured and pulled a string to make sure we wasn't going to hit any gaps in the wood sheeting. That's important to do to start with. But after we found that measurement that was going to work, I'll lay out the sheets 3.5 up from the bottom. I screw them in the flat so that the wind can't get under it, and then I like to screw in the rib. And I know you're not supposed to, but it's the way I like to do it. It's the way they've done it for a very long time, and it's always worked well as far as preventing leaks, because there's going to be less water here than there is here. But I go through and lay out my sheets every 24 inches, and then I take this scratch awl, my hammer, and punch all the screw holes so that there's no, I don't have to go back and chalk lines. We don't have to do anything. Once we get this on, it'll be game on as fast as we can run screws. So at this point, it's just putting this foam on, punching the sheets. We can only punch about 3 at a time, but it's worthwhile because it saves a lot of trouble. The screws don't start all that great, and for screwing in the rib like I like to do, you can get screws that are, the standard screws going to be 1/4 inch drive, 1.5 inch long. I go with the big 5/16 2 inch long screws so that I'm getting more gripping power screwing down through the top of the rib. And that is how you throw some metal on in an afternoon. It's like 6 o'clock. We started at around 2. I think we put all this metal on in 4 hours. Just me and my 2 boys. Hadn't screwed it yet, obviously, but it is all on. It's screwed all the way across the bottom and all the way across the top. It's punched and ready for screws in the rest of it, and I have got to make a piece for the end. I hate piecing it like that, but in a case like this, you ain't got no other option. So I hope you enjoyed this update on the house. We've got like half a dozen more windows to put in. The reason we stopped on the window replacement was the roof got to leaking to the point where it was like, if we don't get a roof on this thing, there's no point in doing anything else. So we decided to put everything else on hold until the roof was done. But we're gonna replace the rest of the windows, get those trimmed out, and paint on the exterior is probably going to be one of the last priorities, because we're going to live in it with no paint on the outside. But we're going to move to, after we get the windows finished, I've got a little bit of wiring left to do, and plumbing, framing up walls. Got a little addition we're going to put on the side of it, and yeah, it's coming along slowly but surely. Thanks for watching. See y'all next time.